Bringing you the voice and vision of custom culture and lifestyle, as seen through the eyes of this South Texas duo. Welcome to the Kustom Couple.
Recording in progress. Ladies and gentlemen, this is call it a simulcast? Is that what you guys want to call it?
Yeah, we can call it that.
Simulcast of the Gnarly Magazine podcast and
the Kustom Couple.
Word up. So how you guys doing? You guys in San Antonio, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Man, I got a love-hate relationship with that place.
Well, you from listening to your podcast, you were Air Force, correct?
Yeah, man.
So you came through San Antonio for a few weeks.
In August 2000. Oh. Yep. August of 2000. It was miserable. So, and as a matter of fact, I was thinking about it a few minutes ago because, you guys, I am a Northern California kid, and there's no humidity in Northern California, and it's pretty humid in South Texas.
Oh, it's extremely humid.
Yeah.
San Antonio especially.
Yeah. And underneath, I don't know if you guys have ever been on Lackland, but underneath the old dorms is where we all formed up every morning, and there's pigeons everywhere. So to come to Texas, San Antonio in August, in the humidity and the heat, and then also the raging smell of pigeon shit is so intensely burned into my brain.
Yeah, those are San Antonio's own winged rats.
That's dude. It's nuts, man.
Yeah. So I work next door to Lackland. I work at what used to be old Kelly Air Force Base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we live like 15 minutes away from that.
Where did it close? A friend of mine used to be a commander at Kelly.
Yeah, it closed in 99, and most of the workforce went up to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
The workforce that stayed all became private contract type work that they couldn't move. So like my job, we build the engines for C-130s. You know, they couldn't just pick up all that equipment and move it so easily. So, yeah. So yeah, it's been closed since 99, and the company I work for has been there ever since. Like they just picked up where they left off. So, but cool. Yeah, I grew up here in San Antonio. I love the humidity.
I mean,
not at all.
No, dude, I live in North Carolina, and I left, and like when I was here for 8 years, from 2004 to 12, and I was like, oh, I can't wait. Like at first, it was a shock, because my first duty station was Ellendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. And then we came here in July, and I left Alaska in June, where it was like 70 degrees on a hot day and dry, and then came down here. And dude, the humidity is something I just was not prepared for. So, but like, I love it. We came back, and now, I went back to California and lived for a couple of years. And like, I just don't want to live anywhere else. Like, I love the humidity.
you cut your gills so you can breathe underwater.
Well, I mean, everything cracks. Like if I go home to Northern California, like my skin cracks, and like I've got crazy dry skin just naturally. Not that anybody gives a fuck about that, but this is great custom culture conversation.
Absolutely. I'm sure these artists know.
This is like this is the icebreaker. It opens everything up.
Yeah, man.
I've dealt with asthma. I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah. So what do you guys do down there? Like, do you work on engines, and what do you do?
I work in the medical field.
Oh yeah.
I'm a nurse. Yeah.
You're a nurse? Thank God for you guys. Thank God for medics, man.
That's what I said. I come home with all kinds of cuts and bruises.
Like, done. Don't even go to the ER.
Don't even go. I just can't. God bless people that can put people back together.
It's a pain.
Absolutely. And of course, like it's been in most conversations we've had recently is, with COVID, the way it shut everything down. Like
we were both essential. So we were still working. I was working about 130 hours for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I did it for about like 4 months. Like he wouldn't see me at all. I'd be at work all the time. Like, well, 4 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night. I'll see you at home at 10.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of fast food eating at that time.
Word up. I bet. Well, I mean, everybody appreciates what you do. You know what I mean? And the work that everybody has done with COVID. You know, like whatever your opinion is, a lot of people work their asses off.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So how'd you guys get into podcasting?
So he originally had his own company and he did the podcast, the Rust Culture Project, and he kind of did something similar. He decided to close it down when he was going, selling his house and going, ending a kind of serious situation. And so when we met, we learned that we love to travel. We love going to car shows. We love meeting people, talking to people. We're the most like talkative people ever. We can meet anybody and talk for hours. Like it's the easiest thing for us. And so he already had a car and I've always wanted to get into cars and learn stuff and meet people. And of course he knows everybody here. I'm not from San Antonio. I'm from California, believe it or not.
Word.
So when we wind up meeting, like he was already like getting out of the car scene, not wanting to do it anymore. I was like, no, don't do that. I want to do it. Like it's my turn. And so when he wanted to start doing a podcast, I was like, let's do it. I was like, we can be the couple. I was like, we can be the Kustom Couple. I was like, because he has his Model A. I have my Thunderbird. We want to be able to travel with our cars and show up and meet a bunch of people and kind of just support all the local businesses and the small businesses that we found along the way. And, just kind of help. Because I think the thing that really got us wanting to do it was that, of course we love interviewing like the bigger people, the people that are well known, but you don't really get to hear all the stories of people who are like starters and, have the small businesses, because those are the greatest ones that I've learned that I like hearing more. So yeah,
for sure.
Ever since. And everyone supported.
Our whole vision going into it was, just wanting a reason to get back into going to car shows and wanting a reason to get back into going to some of the concerts that we enjoyed going to and talking to some of the people that we knew from that realm, and being able to throw out there, okay, well, let's do a podcast. A lot of people are listening to podcasts. Like it's gotten bigger recently, and when I was doing one before, it was still kind of underground, still kind of like, well, what the hell is a podcast? It's like, oh, it's talk radio, but it's stuff you actually want to listen to,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like we just kind of looked for that reason, and we knew so many people that it was like, everybody's got a story. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their first car. Everybody, from folks that are building cars to folks that are just enthusiasts. Everybody has that one that they chased after and they got it, and it's always a really good story. So we enjoy just sitting down and talking with people, and a lot of our podcasts are in the same room with the folks that we talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So but just recently we were like, well, we can't just pick up and travel all the time, not yet, at least.
Yeah.
So now we're starting to do more of the Zoom calls and the phone calls, and
and it's frustrating a little bit, like it's so much better to be in the same room.
Yeah.
But Zoom is a very, I don't want to say a close second, but it's a second. You know what I mean? Like it's still better to see all the nonverbals that come off of people, and it bridges that gap between a telephone conversation, because there's a lot of stuff that's missed, by facial expressions and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. You don't know how to always take things when it's when you can't see the other person. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's Zoom, most of our podcasts have been over Zoom, and plus it kind of opens the door. You know what I mean? Like you can interview people from anywhere in the world.
So yeah, we actually have a list of some folks that we're reaching out to, and some folks that have actually reached out to us in other countries. So like we're stoked for that. So like we get to talk to some folks in Germany here in the next couple of weeks,
Australia.
in Australia. Cool. So like it's wild, like the way things have changed over the last several years, the way you can do these things. So
and the technology.
Tell our listeners about how Gnarly came to be in your life, and how you got into podcasting with them.
So I was in Japan in like 2016, and like I am a big fan of like all these veteran owned t-shirt companies. I'm a t-shirt guy, right? Like 9 Line and Article 15 clothing, all this stuff. But the thing is that like I don't shoot guns. I spent 20 years in the military and shot a gun 4 times. You know what I mean? I shoot wires. I'm an avionics technician. I fix jets.
Yeah.
So not wanting to be a poser, and not like I reached out to these companies and said, hey, can you make like I'm not a door kicker. You know, those guys deserve all the credit because I first of all, I can't imagine what it's like to stand on one side of a door, knowing that I have to kick my way in and execute everybody on the other side and not know what's on the other side. The bravery that takes is something that I can't even fathom.
Right.
But,
yeah.
So they should have all of the glory. But I'm not going to wear that because it doesn't represent me. So I reached out to a bunch of them and I got no response. So I said, the hell with it. And I trademarked American Maintainer and started a company called American Maintainer that was just designed to celebrate those of us that turn wrenches for our country, not just for our country, but everybody.
Yeah.
From the guys that fix toilets and the guys that you know keep the lights on, keep the plumbing going, fix this, you know, your kid's school bus. Everybody that turns a wrench is so often forgotten in today's society because everybody's looking for a college degree or the next greatest thing, and like blue collar workmanship is kind of, I'm sure that you guys will agree with this, is kind of almost looked down upon, or it was. It's coming back. Like Mike Rowe's done a lot of great stuff for it. And then
yeah, he has.
I started selling t-shirts. We moved back to North Carolina, and then on a whim, I bought a USB mic, started a podcast, and then kind of grew that. And then, and that was really just an excuse to have my friends over that I've known for 20 years, and they come to my house. We get shit faced, tell a bunch of stories from us, you know, being TDY all over the world, and having gay blow up dolls named Gay Steve. And we were in Spain on our way to Afghanistan, and we're at this place called Meat Plate. And that's just what we called it. But like there was just a bunch of trays, and they would just bring out all this meat and sangria. And a guy goes outside. There's like 15 of us. Guy goes outside to smoke a cigarette, and like 2 locals walk up to him and, you know, start talking, and it starts to get heated. And I was like, hey guys, let's go outside and check this out. Shit starts getting more and more heated. And then the last guy, this guy, Darren, walks outside. He's shit faced. One of the funniest guys I've ever met. Walks up to the 2 guys, pulls his pants and underwear down to his ankles on the corner of a street in Morón, Spain, and goes, no mas pantalones, and diffuse the entire situation. You know what I mean? So like, this is the kind of stuff that my friends just come over and we drink a lot and tell these stories and give them, you know, I don't know anybody even listens to it. I think we've only had 5,000 downloads total, but it's just fun. So from that, I kind of learned, and then I started following Gnarly Magazine just because I thought it was cool. And then Johnny posted an ad and said, hey, I'm looking for someone to start a podcast. And I responded and thought I had like a 5% chance. And I mean, we talked and clicked, and here we are.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So
yeah, I had seen that same post. Sam actually sent it to me, and you know, because I had, you know, the old podcast, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And we started kind of half-ass working with somebody. Yeah. And it just didn't, like, nothing came to fruition. So it was like we spent a bunch of time that just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that whole time I was sitting there following Gnarly. And when you started doing the podcast with him, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is where we want to be at.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were just kind of spinning our wheels. And finally Sam was like, happy birthday. Here's a bunch of podcast equipment.
I was like, we're doing it. Can't even say no anymore. We're doing it. It's already all bought. Sorry. Like it was the same. It's just like you said, like, you know, when you talked to them at Gnarly, y'all clicked. Unfortunately, we didn't click with the people that wanted to do a podcast with us. And it was like, you know, we wish them the best of everything. But I was like, nope, we're doing it. That's it. We got bit by the bug, and I was like, we're going to do it. That's it.
Well, there's plenty of room out here for everybody. Everybody should start a podcast. You know what I mean?
I think whatever you're into. Has.
I mean, that's fair. There's like 20,000 new ones a day or some ridiculous number. But I mean, I try to listen to as many weird ones because I just started a new job back in a fighter squadron, but for a year I drove to an hour or 35 minutes away. So, I mean, I listened to podcasts and books on tape, and I tried to get as many as I could. But so
what kind of podcasts. Like, I mean, this is just going to be a whole Let's Talk podcast episode anyway. So,
Well,
but,
I mean, it started with Joe Rogan.
of course.
So my number one goal in life is to be a stand-up comic. Since I was like 8, I remember when I'm old enough to remember when Comedy Central was born. And like, I was sitting in my parents' room and I was like, and it came out and I was like, oh my God, this is an entire network that's devoted to people that stand up on a stage and tell jokes. And
right in front of a red brick wall.
Right. And I mean,
spotlight on you.
So I follow a lot of comics, Joe Rogan, and like, I listen to a lot of the Fighter and the Kid and stuff like that. And most of it is comic stuff because I like to laugh. You know what I mean? And also someday I'll have the balls to stand up on stage and tell jokes.
Of course. You come to San Antonio, we'll be the first 2 to buy tickets.
Right.
I'll tell you that right now.
Listen,
Done.
the day somebody tells me to pay or pays me to tell a joke, that'll be, I'll buy the tickets.
There you go. We'll book you. How about that? We'll figure out a way to book you.
What is it called? It's like called the Laugh Club or something downtown. I don't remember what it's called.
Laugh Out Loud.
Laugh Out Loud.
Laugh Out Loud, San Antonio.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the comedy clubs here. There's a couple around here that are actually pretty good. A lot of the bigger names stroll through them. But yeah, you show up in San Antonio, we'll be the first 2 to buy tickets to your show.
Word. I mean, I gotta do that thing first, and that's like take the first step and get on a stage.
Hey,
but I mean, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like I do this. I have my own podcast. I have a 5-year-old that I'm trying. I would like for my 5-year-old not to end up in prison. So trying to teach her not to be an asshole. And
that sounds like us. I have a 5-year-old
dude.
We are right there with you, man.
She just turned 5 in April, and I tell her, like, I always laugh because she'll come to shows with us, like she's like all in it. She's been around cars and everything since she was born. So now that she's like, starting to be sassy, she's like, oh, I'm gonna go pose, I'm gonna go do this, I'm like, okay, that's cool, just don't be a dick, like right. Don't touch their cars. Seriously, don't put your fingers all over it. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, let's not. And then people will stare at me. I'm like, no, I want to raise her to not be a dick. Like she has to have car etiquette.
For sure. Hard
so
though.
We are right there on that same path with you.
She's the best, but I mean, she has my wife's intelligence. My wife is way more attractive and way more intelligent than I am. And she's as smart as her and has my shitty attitude. So
yep.
We're in trouble.
Love it. Yeah. When I was running a media company before, I had no intention to do anything like this. And like, we were just trying to sell t-shirts, and then we were just trying to take pictures at car shows. And, we were just kind of a social media kind of presence. And my brother actually told me, he was trying to spark a fire under me just to do things better business wise, and started telling me podcasts to listen to. And instead of gaining anything from those podcasts, I just decided, well, I want to do that. I'll just do a podcast because this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. So instead of learning how to run a business, I just learned how to run a podcast.
It's way easier. Way easier. And like, I have been an airbrush artist for 20 years. The Air Force got me started in that. So, and like, I love art. Love art. I don't know where we would be without art, but it's not a world I want to live in. And like the opportunity to talk to, guys like Rob Churchill, who I know was on your old podcast, and like these giant heroes of mine for years and years and years, but also like talk to people that are less well known to give them exposure that might get them, maybe on our tiny little podcast to elevate them to another level is just fantastic. And you guys have a lot of builders on, right?
We kind of go across the realm of all of the culture, really. Yeah. More builders have been on the show. Also, just we had a few episodes where it was just folks that are in our car club. So they come over, like you said, come over and drink some beers and just sit and talk into a microphone. We had one guy that he promotes the local custom motorcycle scene here.
Yeah, the bike nights. He has bike nights every month where you can have like all your old school cars, but like they'll lead it with their motorcycles and stuff, and
Nice.
like talking about custom bikes and all that kind of stuff. Like we kind of like go all over the place with it. We've even talked to Eddie from Voodoo Glow Skulls because he's like getting it big into stuff like that, and him talking about shows and being in the scene. So we kind of go across all the board. We don't really have like just a specific people. We want to talk to everybody. It's
Same
fun.
Yeah. So musicians, artists, car enthusiasts, pinup models.
Yeah.
Word.
And then like we were talking about having some folks from around the globe on. We're in the works with talking to a custom car builder from England.
Mm-hmm.
And some of like the European stuff that
oh my god,
done.
the stuff he creates is crazy.
That's awesome. What's his like? Can you guys give away his name?
Yeah, of course. His name's Andy Saunders.
Andy Saunders.
You can find him online. I think it's just his name.
Yeah, it's just his name. I think it's .org if I'm not mistaken. But either way, if you search it up, it'll come up. And some of his like custom builds that he's done are insane. Like we were just looking at it for hours. And he's a really nice guy. He's currently writing a book. And he's done a couple like interviews and stuff. He's a really nice guy. So we're trying to work out a time and day with him. But I would definitely check him out and look at some of his custom work.
And then Sam's going to be talking with some of like the folks that are in the custom culture down in Australia, like the lady that makes all of her custom jewelry.
Oh yeah, Samantha. She has the same name as me, but yeah, she makes all my custom earrings and stuff like that. And then the Australian pinups, her name is Betty Butcher. She goes by Betty Butcher, and she knows a bunch of the people in the car scene in Australia and like all the builders, all the painters out there. And she's like, oh yeah, we're getting big out here. I was like, okay, cool. We want to know about this because I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's huge in Australia.
Yeah, it really is. So we're looking forward to all of that. So it's funny you brought up Rob Churchill. When I met him, like I had no earthly idea who he was. I didn't, and it was wild to me when I started listening to your podcast, and you had so many artists mention him.
Dude, he's the ringleader. You know what I mean? Like, I talked to Rob Churchill today, an hour ago, and like every time I talk to Rob Churchill, my life gets better. So
that's awesome. And I had talked to an airbrush artist that was in Colorado, I believe, and he was a friend of my brother's, and my brother gets involved with everything I do, like way involved, and I love it because every day I get a new text like, hey, check this guy out, or hey, go check this out over here, and look into this program for your computer. And it's like it's just information overload.
Yeah.
And so I link up with a friend of his that's this airbrush artist that's actually, he's a dentist. He's making hand over fist money as a dentist, but then he's like just creating amazing art on the side. And he's like, oh, you got to talk to Rob Churchill. I'll get you in touch with him. It's like, okay, cool. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But then I end up talking to him. I meet him at this little art store here in San Antonio. He was just happened to be there doing a presentation there on some, I think it was a new airbrush gun that he was testing out or something. And he was packing up and done. And he was like, okay, I got time to sit down with you. And I ended up talking to him for like an hour.
So easy to talk to.
And then he even wanted to get me involved with the airbrush art circus that was going to be in Austin that year. And he was like, you can get one of your custom car builder friends and we can chop a car during the art circus. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. And now I'm like listening back to it. I'm like, man, I sat with royalty as far as the art community goes.
He really is. You know what I mean? And like, and I mean, I honestly didn't really know who he was either until I had to like research him until after I met him. Like going back, I knew who he was. Cause like, I tried to go to an airbrush action getaway for years. So I knew looking at old pictures who he was, but I was like, I just found out about him. This whole thing started because he messaged me one night. Was like, hey, I think the podcast is cool. And then we're texting back and forth. And then he gave me his number. Next thing I know, I'm calling him and he's like, look, man, you got to come to Florida. You got to be part of this airbrush art circus, and then like it worked out that I was able to go.
How many interviews did you get while you were there?
6.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I got Darren Wenzel, who is the head painter for Jesse James, Rob. Oh my God. See, this is my problem. I'm the worst with names. The worst. Scott McKay, the 2 girls, Shayna and Jesse, the guy that owns Coast Airbrush, Dave Monig, and I talked to 2 airbrush art, Javier Soto, who is like a guy that I've been a huge fan of for like 15 years. And then another guy that helped start like t-shirt stuff, Greg Worthington, and then Chris Brookshire. I'm fucking that up, and dude, I'm so sorry. But anyway, I mean, I got those six interviews, and it was so great. And like I worked the first day. I flew in. I got up here at like 4:00 in the morning. Flew to Orlando and went and did my day job at this conference, and then went back to the hotel and was up till like midnight, which I don't do. And I was just exhausted, and then went back the next day and did the same thing all over again. Was up all night doing shows. It was great.
Oh my God. Man. So you're just as busy as we are. We do our day jobs. We do the podcast. We hang out with our kid. We're over here scheduling stuff. I'm like, shit, you're just as, we're like, we have time. And then when you're done, you're like, I shouldn't have done that, but I'm glad I did it.
I'm glad I did it. Like, I'm exhausted. And my wife has a makeup company, an online boutique. And so she does the same thing. Like, you know, but I mean, she has no interest in any of this, but, so, I mean, and that's the part where like, at some point you just got to stop and go, like, it's kid time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, we've come to that realization. We actually took like a kind of like a little break for ourselves just because we were so busy. And I was like, look, because we do live shows on Mondays, every Monday on Facebook. We talk with everybody. We let them know what's going on,
that's cool.
Who at the episode, like, because our episodes come out on Tuesdays. So we let everybody know, like, oh, this is who we spoke with. So tomorrow the episode's going to hit. Be sure to check it out, you know, throw out our shout outs and stuff. And I was like, look, we need to like take a break. I was like, because we're moving like 800 miles per hour and I'm back in the slow lane, like going 2 miles per hour. Like I'm burnt and we need to take a rest. So, we definitely have come to that realization where we're trying to find like the little happy medium of it all. But I'm like, okay, this is worth it. It's fun.
It is so fun.
So do you live your entire life on a calendar like we do?
No, I'm not. I don't want to. Did for 20 years, and I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like I get up and I mean, the answer is yes. I don't want to admit it, but like we're going to Hawaii in August, and I don't want to be a fat piece of shit and have like some offshore save the whales come rescue me. So I get up at 4:30 and try to work out before I go to work, and then go to work and come back, and I mean, but again. Like I really only do podcasts 1 or 2 days a week. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So they're super easy. So I didn't really answer that question. It was kind of sorry.
It's a yes and a no.
It's a yes and a no. I mean, yes, I don't want to. But I still, you got to take time to like every once in a while. I'll just take a couch day, and you have to like sit down and watch Rick and Morty and.
Exactly.
Veg out into nothing.
Damn right.
You know what I mean?
100%. Oh yeah. That's definitely like one of our top faves. Constantly quoted in the house.
Yeah. Because otherwise you'll just go nuts. So where are you guys trying to take your show? Kind of one day at a time, or what? Do you guys have a big plan for the show?
It really has been one day at a time. Like our biggest joy with it, at least, from my end of it, I'm sure Sam would agree though. Our biggest joy with it is, some of the interviews that we've landed and getting kind of that, that clout that, I got to talk to this person, or, we did this interview last week and it just ran like melted butter. It's like some of those, those little wins that you get,
For sure.
We haven't really like monetized, we haven't, created anything to sell really.
No,
But
we're working on it, but that's not really something that we're like, oh, we have to do this right now. We've kind of got a couple people that we've been talking to, and we're, got some designs coming out and stuff. Cause, we have been asked about merch and stuff. And luckily, from his old podcast that he did, and then from people knowing us here, and us traveling and stuff, we've had a lot of support and a lot of people that want us to, succeed and stuff. Ultimately, I think what we would like, it doesn't always pan out that way, but what we're hoping for is that this is something that we can do as our job, because we both enjoy it so much. We love traveling. We love meeting people. We love talking to people. So I think that's ultimately our goal, but we're kind of at that point where we're like, okay, let's one day at a time right now. Don't just think, oh, it's going to happen. No, one day, because you got to build from somewhere.
Rod Churchill will famously say that it takes 15 years to become an overnight success.
Hey, I absolutely agree. And I've tried to explain that to some folks too. It's like some people they jump out there and they want to do, they want to be the biggest thing and the biggest fish in the pond on day one. And when I tried to explain that before, I was like, you're just not going to get there. You have to build a base. You have to have a structure underneath you, because okay, say you do land the some of the biggest interviews of your life, nobody hears it.
Exactly.
What's that going to do for you? If you have no fan base or you have no support structure whatsoever. So I think that's where we're at with it now. But Sam's right. If this was something that we could do as a daily job, we would.
Same.
If we didn't have anything else going on in our lives, like this wouldn't stress us out so bad.
Right.
No.
Right. And that's, I agree. I'm in the exact same boat, right? Is the goal is to, just to do what you love. Because everybody in the military famously says, I'm still trying to figure out, I have no idea what I'm going to do when I grow up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is 45-year-old men that have been in the military for 25 years. And I didn't know either. But this is the thing. I like you guys. I love talking to people, and I love to hear people's stories, and I love to promote art, and I want to go back to making art. And, if I can do those things, man, my retirement pays the mortgage and we're good.
Hell yeah. What is Gnarly kind of projected for you? Like, do they have a vision of where they want you to take it, or they just kind of...
Johnny's been like, it's your show. Like, that's been Johnny's stance from the beginning. He wanted somebody that he didn't have to, that was willing to just take it over. And the freedom that I've gotten from Gnarly to talk to whoever I wanted in the beginning, Johnny sent me names and like, hey, I want you to interview this guy and this guy, this guy. And then kind of as the show's grown now, I just let him know, like, we talk all the time, but like, hey man, I'm doing you guys tonight. And then like Saturday, I'm sitting down with George Sedlak, who was Evil Knievel's painter. And
that's cool.
And I'm going to talk to the guy that painted every one of Evil Knievel's bikes. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to go talk to a guy who's a Coast Guard rescue swimmer that's about to retire and is an amazing sign painter. It's kind of all falling into place, but our goal is the same thing, is to try to find a way to like make this a television show or something where I show up with a camera crew, whatever it can become.
Yeah.
So, but to let it grow organically.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And to just follow the trail. I would like to get to a point where at some point I can't stop it. It has to go on. So.
Yeah. That's an excellent goal and an excellent, vision, for the path of that goal, to be able to just, build organically, like you said. I noticed like when we were doing a lot of things, social media wise, there's just everything that hits you, every 2 seconds of, oh, well, promote your post with this, this amount of money and you'll get this many more followers. And it's like, yeah, do you really get those followers, or is that just, smoke and mirrors? And there's no way to prove any of it. So yeah, organically grown as far as like, your support structures go, is the best way to go about it. Absolutely.
I totally agree. And I had the same.
Sorry, go ahead.
I had the same conversation when I talked to Mark Method, the guy that brought cartoons back. He said the exact same thing. He was like, the internet is so pay based that like pay to get in front of people. He goes, it's cartoons, man. It grew itself.
Yeah, absolutely. My buddy Dennis was one of the artists that got to have his stuff shown in Cartoons Magazine, and that's he posts about it all the time, and he's so proud of it. I mean, he did some really cool stuff for them, and then when I got to meet him in person in St. Louis, he gave me one of the issues that he was in and signed it for me and everything. I have it hanging up here at the wall. So Menace, shout out.
That's a dream, dude. I've been reading cartoons since I was like 8. It's the reason that I'm in it. That's the reason I do this today. It all goes back to cartoons and George Strauss.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what it goes back to for me. Probably Saturday morning cartoons in general. I mean that was the best part of the week right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And like, I feel so fortunate to have grown up in the 80s and the 90s. I was born in 78. So like, I really grew up in the late 80s and early 90s where there was, before the internet, before, like I had an A and B switch on my cable box. Like, yeah. And it was great. I was just outside. Where are you going? I don't know. I could go 5 blocks that way and 6 blocks that way and on my bike. And that was it. You know what I mean? And I just jumped curbs and fell down and got hurt, came home, ate, and went back outside and read cartoon magazines and drew hot rods.
Yeah, no, we were out at a mall on Monday? Was that when we went to the mall?
Yes.
And
don't quote me on that.
Yeah, it was.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. The days just get stuck together sometimes. And like you said, growing up at that time, but before the internet, before all of that, before we had cell phones, dude, we walking around at the mall and just seeing everybody just glued, their eyeballs are stuck to a phone screen. And one girl like actually ran into Sam.
Literally she ran into me.
She's looking at her phone.
That's crazy.
Face first.
And growing up in that same time, like I love the fact that we were the first ones to get to play video games and didn't like get stuck playing video games. Right. Like now these kids are like doing it for like 10, 12 hours at a time.
They weren't good enough. Nobody wanted to play the original Mario Brothers for 10 hours a day.
No. I mean, you could be done with it like within the first 30 minutes. So
pull on the stupid cartridges and stick them back in. They were stuck.
Yeah, we all have great lungs thanks to Nintendo.
Well, also because we were outside. We were active.
It encouraged everybody that they can fix anything when they did that. They're like, done. I fixed it.
But you guys are pretty fortunate in that there's a pretty good like custom culture scene in South Texas, right? Like it's everywhere down there, right?
We do have a really good culture scene here when it comes to like the cars, the art. We have a lot of really cool local artists. Our tattoo artist, he's a sign painter and pinstriper as well.
Mm-hmm. Really?
He owns his own tattoo shop. He's just I'd say he's a jack of all trades, but he actually is good at everything that he does. So
that's awesome.
But we have several pinstripers around here that they go and set up at the car shows, and they do amazing work. We'll actually have 1 or 2 of them on our show at some point as we weed through all of the folks that we need to get interviews done with.
I think the greatest thing about the scene down here is that I'd say 85% of like the painters, the people that do the art, the people that are in shows and bands and all that stuff, they have like a normal 9 to 5 job, and then they like completely 180 and do something different. It's like, whoa, like I think there was a painter that I knew that was really good at pinstriping, and I was like, oh, what do you do? He's like, I'm a history teacher, and I was like, oh, I would have never guessed that.
No,
and it's
awesome.
just cool because you hear all these things. It's like, no, like these are people that have passions down here, and they're like, no, this is what I like to do on the weekends. Like, this is what I want to do. And it's like, wow, that's cool. Like, you know, like they get, you know, they do the adulting, they go do their job, and then they go and have their fun and their passion. And I think that's what makes it more fun, like down here for me personally, is because like you just hear their stories and you hear what they do normally. You're like, wow, I would have never crossed those two together. And then they tell you the story of why they got into it.
It's the best. And I'm so jealous because here in Eastern, like I'm a silo, you know. I mean, I interviewed Anthony Hicks last Saturday, and you know, told his story of his illustration process. But like, there's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's more as you get west towards like Greensboro and Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is redneck beach country, man.
So not so much hot rods, but more like lifted Jeeps and things of that nature.
There's actually a car show that we're going to this weekend. With one of our car club members, and like I think there was one a couple months back that was like the first one after like all of COVID craziness when it started opening up back here. That car show was packed. I think it was like they had over like I think 400 cars that registered to be in it, and we didn't think anything of it. We're like, oh, let's just go, it'll be cute because it's not like a big venue. And they ran out of room because everyone was so excited to come out. So
I'm so jealous, guys.
Well, you know what, if you get a chance to make it back to South Texas, we have a lot of our bigger shows that got pushed into the fall. So September, October time frame, they're gonna Lone Star Roundup.
I'm coming to Lone Star Roundup. I got invited. Rob invited me to the Lone Star Roundup. So I'm going to come to that. And, I mean, pack up my little podcasting suitcase and come see if I can get down on something, you know, talk to somebody at the Lone Star Roundup, probably only for a short time.
So what you're saying is we can meet in person.
Yeah, we can meet in person.
Yes.
So, absolutely. Because like, I need to come. I mean, you guys also have the second best barbecue on the planet, and I need to come get some.
Second best? Who's the first?
Eastern North Carolina, baby.
No, absolutely not.
Hey, as long as you didn't say something like Kansas or
no way,
sweet ass.
The only thing you should put on a pig is vinegar and hot sauce, and that's how we do it down here. So,
I agree. We don't put much sauce on our steaks around here or anything like that.
No. No, but I mean, when I was in San Antonio I went to the non-commissioned officer academy and spent one Saturday, me and a buddy drove up there to Austin and spent 5 hours in line for Franklin's.
Like,
you know, dude. And everybody's like, oh, it's shit barbecue. And I was like, bro, I'd do it right now. Right now. If I had the opportunity, I would get in my truck and I would drive to Austin right now and spend 5 hours in line for his barbecue.
Yeah, and then just a little ways out of Austin, Lockhart, Texas has like 3 of the biggest, like best barbecue places. They've got, you know, just South Texas in general just has like just barbecue just coming out of the woodwork.
I would love it. It's on our list. Like we still talk about moving to Texas. We haven't owned the house long enough. You know what I mean? We got to do all that adult stuff, but like there's a good chance that we're going to end up in South Texas.
Cost of living is wonderful down here.
Same here, man. That's what makes it.
That's why California keeps moving here.
Hey, man, California moved to North Carolina, and I'm not going back, bro. So, all right, guys, it's late here. I'm gonna wrap this up because I got an early day, but I really appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you being on. We appreciate being on your podcast. So, we're stoked to get out to your listeners.
We'll give your final shout outs. What do you guys got to tell everybody?
Okay. I'll just give a shout out to you, Mr. Ward from Gnarly Magazine, for having us on. I think this is a great collab that we're going to have. I think everyone's going to be excited to hear on our side and your side of what we have to say. Granted, I'm so sorry to everybody because we were bullshitting for the first 20 minutes, but that's the fun of it all.
It's fine.
But then I guess also shout out to Deluxe Creation, who does all my custom earrings and stuff like that. Samantha in Australia. We'll be talking with her eventually, not yet, because I still got to figure those out.
Yeah, we got to figure out the time difference on that one. I think it's like 12 or 13 hours.
About 13 hours.
It's a long way. Yeah.
But do you have anybody else you want to shout out real quick?
I'm just shout out to all of our previous guests that have been on, and all of our listeners that have been messaging me constantly talking about things that happen on our show. So everybody that listens to us normally, we really appreciate the feedback, and we appreciate being able to do things like this podcast. So hopefully anybody else out there that's doing podcasts, we'll be on your show too.
Word up. For sure, man. And that, like I said, there's enough room out here for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and we should be all diligently working to support each other, because everybody has time to listen to a podcast. You know what I mean? Everybody's in their car or running or whatever, and everybody's got time. And like, you could listen to Joe Rogan, or you could try something new. So,
absolutely.
And I mean, I still listen to Joe Rogan all the time, but I also try to listen to new shit and see, broaden my podcasting horizons. So
absolutely, that's awesome, man. Give our listeners some of the places that they can find your podcast on.
We are everywhere podcasts are sold. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, all that stuff. You can go to gnarlymagpodcast.com, and there's a link to every podcast that we have, so you can play it straight from the website. There's also my personal email, so if you want to reach out to me directly from that, to give me good, bad, or indifferent feedback, like I want it all. Speaking of which, have you guys gotten any bad feedback?
I wouldn't say bad feedback. We did have an episode where we did a phone interview that the sound didn't come through very well on the guest side. And we had gotten a few people saying, "Hey, I couldn't hear too well," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. We're working on that."
That was the guy in Florida.
Yeah.
I listened to that episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I told the people that text me, I said, "Look, I know it sounded bad. Just turn the volume way up."
Way up. Yeah, I mean, I was able to. It works great.
It didn't really sound that bad at all. Chad was an excellent guest that we had on the show.
He felt so bad. He was like, "I fucked it up." I was like, "You didn't fuck it up. I promise."
Yeah, no, he was an excellent guest, and he was one that we ended up talking for over an hour with him.
Yeah,
wonderful guy to talk with. And but like our on our Apple podcast, we've gotten a 5.0 rating, and we've had several people leave reviews. We really haven't had any bad feedback yet, so this will be episode number 9, and we're doing good so far.
Hell yeah. I got one from this guy Bruce Weiss, who on Instagram is Bruce not bought or built not bought by Bruce. And this dude was like, Johnny sent me an email and he's like, "You ready for some feedback?" And I was like, "Oh, let me have it." And this dude was like, "Nick Ward needs to shut up and let other people talk, and also stop saying," you know what I mean? Like, hammered me. But I'll tell you what, like, it made me better. You know what I mean? Like, there was a couple nights that I didn't sleep, and I thought about it over and over and over. And I was like, dude, like, rule number 1 in my book is don't be a piece of shit. And like, Nick, don't be a piece of shit. Like, and like that one thing, I'm so thankful to Bruce, because that one thing has kind of changed the way that I do interviews for the way better. So, Bruce, if you're listening, brother, I appreciate you. So that's my, we'll leave that as my only shout out. But we got, we're going to do, I already mentioned who the next upcoming shows are. And then our show, you guys are going to release yours on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to start doing them every Monday, but for this one, we'll do it Tuesday so that we release the same day.
Okay.
Cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. We did Tuesday, so I can end all of our shows with "See you next Tuesday."
Exactly.
Word up.